In this video, we're going to get into a full Python application. So this is an application that is built to sort of operate a mastermind game. So mastermind is a game you might have played where you have a long board and it's got different colored pegs, and you select different colored pegs to try to pick or to try to choose a secret code, guess the secret code that one player creates the code and the other person tries to guess it. And as you step through the different turns in this game, you guess different things and you try to make sure that you try to identify what the code is by seeing what you have correct and where each position is. So the code breaker every turn generates a guess, and then the code maker identifies how many of those guesses are correct in the wrong position and how many of those are correct in the right position. So we're going to start off by creating some variables. Remember, Python doesn't have constants, it only has variables, but it's kind of the accepted convention to identify variables that we don't want to change as if they are constants. So we can kind of create some basics here. We can say the code length is only 3. We can say that the maximum code value is 2, and then the maximum number of attempts somebody gets is 10. And you can modify these as you like. So if you ever played the game, the plastic game with the board and everything, the original code value is 4. There were 6 different different values, 6 different colors basically, and then you had 12 attempts to guess it. But to test this, we'll use smaller values and we'll use numbers instead of colors. So the computer is going to be the code maker in this example. So one thing that we're going to want to do here is we're going to import random. So first thing, we'll set our values here. We're going to set code length to 3, max code value to 2, and max attempts to 10. But you can change this and you can kind of create different versions of this. We're going to import random. So we'll have a function here for generating the code. Basically, for this function, we're going to create a list, and then for each value in the code length, we're going to populate the result with some random value. So when we create this function, basically we're going to call this, and it's going to give us something back based on code length max value. So you can see here that this is going to generate. What we'll end up with is a list of values that is code length long, and it has the values are going to be they're only going to be maximum code values. So 1, in this case 1 or 2. So this is going to be a really simple version of the game. But because we're going to get input as strings, we're going to make these strings. So str, we're basically going to add these values as strings just to make it a little bit simpler when we start adding user input. So next we're going to get the user's guess, and we're going to write a function here that will allow us to always get a good, a valid guess. So we're going to assume that the result is none, and here while result is none or the length is less than what we would expect, we're going to ask the user to enter code length numbers separated by spaces, and then we're going to get that value. We're going to take off all of the white space and then translate that to a list. So raw guess.strip .split based on spaces, and this means that we'll always get something that looks like a valid result when we use this function. So then the next thing is we're going to check the code. So we're going to declare or define a function for this. We're going to take a look at the ones that are we're going to count the ones in the correct position. We're going to count the ones that are the correct value but maybe not in the right position. And then we're going to copy this code, or we're going to use a copy of the list. So we create a copy of this list, and if the length of the guess is the length of the code, so for each one of these we're going to if the guess is in the right place, then correct position is we're gonna add 1, and if the guess is, or the count of values that is right, we're going to identify those as the number of correct values. So basically this function is going to return the number that are in the correct position and the number that are correct values. So if we have 1 in the right position, it'll be 1, and everything else is wrong, then we'd get 1 and 1. So now we can write the main program. We're going to start off, make sure we run this so that we have that function available. We start off creating an empty list, and then we're going to start with the number of attempts is 1, and then we're going to generate the code. Okay, so then we're going to print something to the user. We're going to tell the user how this operates. So the user is going to have to generate a 3-digit code, and it's going to contain digits from 1 to 2. So pretty simple game at this point. So we're going to use a loop to iterate until the user guesses the code or we've gone past the number of attempts. So First, we'll go ahead and run this, and we're going to say enter 3 digits. We'll start off by 111, and hit enter. And you can see 2 correct, 2 in the right position. Okay, so that's good. So what if we try 1, 2, 1 and hit enter? So we've got 3 correct, but only 1 is in the right position. So we know this middle one is 1 then. So let's say, we'll say 2, 1, 1. Okay, 3 correct and 3 in the right position. So we've guessed that code, you know, and you can kind of see how that works. And then we can tell the user at the end if they guess the code. So this walks us step by step through a Python program, and then, you know, we could keep playing this part, or the, you know, the generate code and the guess over and over again. In fact, we could start the entire thing over again with a much larger number of code lengths and or much larger value for code length, as well as more different values for the code that we use. So for example, if we want to change that, we could say change code value to 6 for a more challenging game and a code length of 4, and, you know, we can kind of set it up as the original parameters. So let's run that. And because these functions will take on the values, we should be okay there. And this function should be okay as well. So if we restart, and, you know, we can get those messages, then we run this again, and we'll say, okay, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we got 2 correct and 2 in the right position. And we said the values need to be 1 to 6. So we'll say 1, 2, 5, 6. Okay, so we got 3 correct and 1 in the right position. So we could continue on with this for a long time. You know, you could work through this particular game. But, you know, if you can kind of see, like, well, we changed this, and, you know, if you keep modifying these, you keep working through it, you'll get to the end. Let's go ahead and stop that, though, because we don't want to go on forever. But if you want to try the entire file, you can actually get the Python file from this by going to File, download, and then download the Python file. And that way you could run this as just a normal application. You know, so this gives you kind of a step-by-step process through creating something that is practical with Python, and how you might modify it and use it for your own. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch up again the next time with objects and classes in Python.